Askreddit thread. What's the best piece of trivia you know? The difference between a cemetery and a graveyard. Graveyards are attached to churches. Cemeteries are standalone. It's also fun to be that guy and correct people on the differences between poison and venom. Venom is injected. Venomous snakes and spiders actually have to sting or bite you to do any damage, while poisons take effect when you eat them, berries and mushrooms, or could react just from touching your skin, poison ivy, certain frogs. Poison, you die if you bite it. Venom, you die if it bites you. Or the difference between flying and flaying half-mast on a boat and half-staff, not on a boat. While nearly the entire country of Saudi Arabia is covered in sand, the sand is of so poor quality that the country has to import 1 billion tons of sand from places like Australia in order to make glass for buildings and homes. What? They also import camels from Australia. Females of some monkey/ape species will mate with as many males as possible to ensure unclear paternity, so that males can't resort to killing their rival offsprings for fear of killing their own. Sounds like a hillbilly family reunion. The Florida branch of family also does this. A friend once pointed out to me that Gary Newman is 13 days older than Gary Oldman. Okay. A litter of kittens can have multiple fathers. 2 of my cats display this. Their mother was bright orange. Their supposed father was also bright orange. My boy cat is sleek, short hair, and orange. My girl cat is huge, fluffy, and gray. The first and last person to die working on the construction of the Hoover Dam were father and son. Oh, that's sad. The word bookkeeper and its various grammatical derivatives is the only word in the English language to contain 3 sets of consecutive double letters. O-O-K-K-E-E. Robert Ton Lequin, Abe's son, was at all of the first 3 presidential assassinations. Oh, that's... that sounds sketchy as fuck. No one suspected him? He shot JFK. Also, John Wilkes Booth's brother saved Abraham Lincoln's son from getting smashed by a train. Bank of America was originally named Bank of Italy. The CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, is the woman who rented her garage to Larry Page and Sergey Brin in 1998 when they were creating Google. What? Did she call you her incubator? This guy fucks. You know, Russ, I've been known to fuck myself. Taser is actually an acronym for Thomas A. Swift's electric rifle. The capital of the Central African Republic, Bangui, sits on the Ubangi River. This makes it the only capital city in the world to sit on a river that is an anagram of its own name. Okay. Turtles fart out of their mouths. Gross. Most zippers are made by the YKK company in the world. You'll see it on most zippers. General Daniel E. Sickles' leg was shot by a cannonball in Civil War and had to be amputated. He donated his detached leg to the new Army Medical Museum, now the National Museum of Health and Medicine, and visited his leg annually on the anniversary of his amputation. There's so much more cool stuff about Daniel Sickles, but sometimes I get a little carried away about talking about him. But seriously, he's the weirdest guy that no one knows about. There are more life forms living on your skin than there are people on the planet. In fact, about 100 times more. Nope, I took a shower today. Good, I'm sure they were thirsty. Carly Rae Jepsen is older than Lady Gaga. I don't know who Carl Ray Jepsen is. Astronomer here. Every single galaxy in the universe we know of has gas within it, orbiting the same direction as its stars, i.e. star-wise, except one. The Black Eye Galaxy, i.e. M64, is that galaxy. If you look from its center, the gas in the 0 to 3,000 light-year range goes star-wise, but from the point out, like 3K to 40K light-years away, the gas goes counter star-wise. No one is quite sure why, but it's believed there was probably a weird galactic merger millions of years ago. Anyway, I know a lot of astro trivia, but that's a super random one even among astronomers. Huh. The word sinister derives from the Latin word for left-handed people. It took on a negative connotation due to feelings people had towards people who used their left hands. What? That the word trivia comes from Latin, means three streets, and stems from the Romans putting up signposts on crossings where three streets met, showing information about each of the directions. Try via. Never realized that before. Wayne and Brett Gretzky have the NHL records for points by a pair of brothers. Wayne has 2,857. Brent contributed 4. Another Gretzky fact. Take away all the points he scored for making goals himself. He would still have more points scored than any other NHA player in history. Wait, what? Take away all the points he scored for making goals himself. His numbers are unreal. There have been 4 200-point seasons in NHL. Every one was Gretzky. The website for a minor Formula 1 team that founded in 1995 is still active. The website for a minor Formula 1 team founded. Pacific Grand Prix. Welcome to the Pacific GP homepage. Last modified October 1st, 1995. Going for 20 years and a few days. I wonder what happened to those guys. Eric Clapton is the only musician inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 times. Once for Yardbirds, once for Cream, and once as a solo artist. Wrong, sorry. Stephen King has countless movie credits to his name between cameos and writing, but he has only directed one. It was for Maximum Overdrive. Humans are striped. We all have invisible stripes on our bodies called Black Ghost lines. They're the cellular relics of our development from a single cell to a fully formed human. The stripes can become visible as a result of some skin conditions and other health-related reasons. What? Our skin is covered in stripes? Oh, my mom has a disease like that. That fucking cat is so sexy. Jazz is the hardest word to guess in Hangman. What? Rhythm is up there too, because it has no mainstream vowel. Depending on who you're playing with, jizz might be harder. You will eat at least 5 spiders in your sleep fact was made up in an effort to show how gullible people are when they read a fact on the internet. The name Barbara comes from the ancient Greek barbaroi. Is it Oi? That's how you say it in Japanese. Whatever. Meaning, those two say barbar. Basically, the Greeks saw these folks and thought they were literally saying bar, and called them barbori. Barbara is just a lady that says bar all day. Okay. Whatever. 30 Earths could fit between the Earth and the Moon. Related, every other planet can fit between Earth and the Moon at highest orbit, with about 5,000 miles to spare. Yeah, because the Moon is really far away. Jinsey J has won more Oscars than Leonardo DiCaprio. I have just as many Oscars as Leo, which is 0. Ohio is the only U.S. state that doesn't share any letters with the word mackerel. Okay. The reason that Daisy is a nickname for Margaret is because the French equivalent, Marguerite, is the French word for the flower daisy. Negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit is the same temperature as negative 40 degrees Celsius. What? All agree it's fucking cold. There's a species of slugs that only has 92 neurons total. Omega and Omicron literally mean big O and little o. Stewardess is the longest word you can write with only using the keys on the left side of the keyboard. People have 3 different kinds of color-sensitive cone cells. Mantis shrimp have 16. As a result, they can see colors we can't even imagine. Some people have 4 kinds of cones, mostly women. This is called tetramocy, and people that have it can also see more colors than people who don't, though the difference is not as pronounced as between a normal person and someone who is colorblind. The Japanese word otenba comes from the Dutch word otembar, untamable in English, and is used to refer to tomboys. As a result, they can see colors you can't imagine, like octare, infrared, and blurple. A group of owls is called a parliament. So is a flock of pedophiles. Penguins have an organ that filters salt from salt water, allowing them to survive without access to fresh water. People who suffer from Capgras syndrome believe people they know have been replaced with exact look-alike imposters. People who suffer from prosopagnosis, oh my god, can't recognize faces. There's no chemical difference between hair, fingernails, and the tusk of an elephant. What? Kellogg invented cornflakes in order to steal the sexual urges of teenage boys and stop them from masturbating. George Washington was all about whiskey. He raised taxes on distillation to cover the debt from the Revolution, and then was the only sitting president in history to saddle up and ride into battle against cats in Pennsylvania who refused to pay. Then, after his terms, he built a big-ass distillery and made a bunch of rye whiskey and paid his own taxes on it. I could do a whole drunk history on it. The great-grandson of Charles I of Austria and heir to the House of Lorraine managed to survive a motorsport crash that probably should hold the record for the highest altitude a racing car has ever been airborne for. ITT, all the next month's TILs. Today I learned. When you correctly shuffle a deck of cards, you almost always wind up with a configuration that has never been existed. There are, in total, 8.1 times 10 to the 67th power different ways that a deck of cards can be arranged, which is allegedly a larger number than the amount of atoms on Earth. Here's where it gets scary. According to the mathematical situation, as many as 91.5% of Solitaire games should be winnable. And yet, in spite of this, people who have actually played the game report that only 8% of games result in a win. Solitaire, really? Now, given that shuffling a deck of cards almost always results in a new configuration, and given that approximately 90% of these configurations should result in winning a game of Solitaire, we're forced to conclude that somehow we're seeing less than 5% of the available configurations for a deck of cards. By a strange coincidence, it turns out that less than 5% of the universe is comprised of normal matter and energy. The rest of it is dark matter and dark energy. What does this mean? It means that when you shuffle a deck of cards, you're only going to wind up with an observable configurations. 90% of that 8 times 10 to the 67th power can be classified as dark configurations. However, mathematically speaking, the more you shuffle a deck of cards, the more likely it'll be that you'll stumble on one of those dark configurations. In other words, it's only a matter of time before someone answers some major astrophysical question using only a deck of cards. Sigh, who let the pigeon out again? The cards tell me that I'm not insane. Ramses the pigeon, okay. The Cantina band in Star Wars plays a genre of music called jizz. Dr. Seuss didn't like children. He famously said, "You make 'em and I'll entertain 'em." That quote doesn't really seem to imply that he hated kids, more that he didn't want kids. Those little plastic things at the end of your shoelaces are called anklets. Well, you see, the thing is, I did a book report on Dr. Seuss in 6th grade. This never came up. He seemed like an okay guy. He wasn't the best of guy in the world, but he was okay. Those little plastic things at the end of your shoelaces are called anklets. The first major battle of the American Civil War, the First Battle of Bull Run, took place in 1861 on a farm owned by a grocer named Wilmer McLean. Not surprisingly, McLean opted to move his family south after the battle, away from the fighting, to a small community in southern Virginia. In 1865, Grant and Lee agreed to meet in that community, a proximate courthouse, and ended the war with an agreement struck in a quiet home owned by Wilmer McLean. For the rest of his life, McLean joked that the war started in his front yard and ended in his front parlor. Huh. In the UK singles chart, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen is the only #1 song whose lyrics do not contain its own title, but do contain the title of subsequent #1, Mamma Mia by ABBA. Durkinit, extirpate, and uproot all mean the same thing. To decimate something means to reduce it by 1/10. Electrocute is portmanteau of electrify and execute. Decoy comes from Dutch decoy, meaning the cage. Princess is the only English word that switches number and gender when you remove just one letter. Number and gender when you remove one letter? Rincest? Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. No way. Holy fuck. Alaska is the most northern, western, and eastern state in the U.S. Some of the islands go past the international date line. We don't know yet why the charge on the proton is exactly equal to the magnitude of the charge on the electron. The standard model of particle physics takes it as it's given. You could use the Anthrope principle, I suppose, because if the charges were unequal, atoms wouldn't be neutral, so molecules and crystals wouldn't be as stable, or stable at all, and thus we couldn't exist in such a universe to measure unequal charges. Right-handed people live on average 9 years longer than left-handed people. Tungsten has the atomic symbol W, as this letter is based on the name given to it by its original discoverer, Wolfram. Wolfram? I think so. Carrots don't improve eyesight or natural night vision. It was a myth invented by the British to fool the Germans in World War II. Next time your parents tell you to eat your carrots because they're good for your eyes, tell them they're full of shit. And then spit in their face to assert your dominance. Captain Crunch was a full name. Horatio Magellan Crunch. When I was younger, I recorded lists of things and facts in a little notebook. Fun stuff like how to say thank you in about a dozen different languages, or the different birthstones for each month. I've since lost the notebook, but one piece of trivia I've recorded and have never forgotten is that the first king of Hawaii was Kamehameha I, and his commemorative day is July 1st. Useless, but interesting. Kamehameha I. I think you meant Kamehameha. I think you meant Kamehameha one. Cats are biologically lactose intolerant. What? But they drink milk. Butterflies drink crocodile tears. The soapy substance you get when bleach comes into contact with your skin isn't the bleach itself. It's the soap that the bleach creates from your skin's fatty oils. What? Alright, that's it for this.